My name is Beatrice Njenga. I'm currently the Deputy Vice Chancellor for the International Leadership University, where I'm in charge of resource mobilization and development. The status of education and skills for youth in Africa has changed and continues to change and must continue to change. In developing policies, statistics are very important because the policy has to be contextual. It has to respond to what is on the ground. So you cannot do without statistics. The challenge is that we don't always have the statistics that we need. So one has to look at indicators that are not necessarily grounded in reality, but they are reflective of a reality as perceived by the people at the local level. So I would say the second decade of education for Africa, plan of action, for instance, was based on what the experts were saying and not necessarily what we went to check on the ground, talking to young people, talking to teachers and all those. But it was definitely indicative of the challenges of the time, because it was clear that, for instance, access to higher education in Africa was like at 5 or 6% against a global average of 27% at that time. And Africa was reeling from the effect of structural adjustment programs and other programs that had been led by donor agencies. They stated authoritatively that Africa does not need higher education because of diminishing social returns. And for that reason, the global goal for education was basic education. In the MDGs, you might remember, the goal for education was 6 years of primary education, which is barely enough even to get people reading and comprehending that which they read. So the second decade of education for Africa, in a sense, also reacted to that, knowing, obviously, that without higher education, even the other basic and minimal Millennium Development Goals could not have been achieved. For instance, the issue of child mortality. You need nurses and you need doctors. At what level are they trained? With 6 years of primary education, what would you have? Barefoot doctors, as one would have us believe, and even teachers. At what level do you train teachers? Of course, there were many theories that anybody who can read or write, like you finished secondary education, you should be ready to teach at that level or lower levels. But we have seen the results. When you look at the ability of children to read and write in primary school after 3, 4, 5 years, it's so minimal, and it must be to do with the way the teachers were prepared, because the quality of teacher preparation, quality of teacher development, the issue of pedagogy, even as a discipline and teaching as a profession, were not well articulated and not well received. You cannot make an informed decision if you cannot be informed, and you cannot be informed if you cannot access the information. And how do you access information that is written if you're not literate? How do you make decisions critically if you have not been exposed to a certain level of knowledge and understanding?